one of the hardest things a parent might go through is learning your child has cancer. It certainly can be a difficult time for families trying to navigate treatment while juggling the emotional side of it, the physical needs of your child as well. Well, one mother is sharing her experience for parents who need maybe some questions answered. I want to welcome Los Gatos author Laura de Crager Lang-Ree. She wrote the book Cancer Parents Handbook, What Your Oncologist Doesn't Have Time to Tell You. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks
and
for sharing
this story. I can't imagine what that must be like to hear when your doctor tells you that your child has cancer.
It's absolutely the worst thing that you can hear from a doctor. It's absolutely devastating.
Because as a mom, as a parent, you just want to do whatever you can to protect your child. But I would imagine you feel a little lost in a time like this. Is this why you wanted to write this book?
Absolutely. So the story really isn't about our journey per se. I use it as a backdrop for empowering parents of kids with cancer. So the book itself is really full of practical tips and guidelines for managing everything from how do you learn how to be an advocate, how do you manage a hospital stay, and how do you take care of yourself and your family when you're in this medical trauma?
Yeah, I would imagine, because everything's up in the air,
Yes.
so much is out of your control, and as parents, we like to guide and control. Tell me about your daughter. Her name is Cecilia.
Yes.
And she's a grown adult now.
A grown adult and surviving and thriving, so she's doing fantastic.
Which is wonderful,
Yeah.
because her diagnosis was when she was little.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about that. Why did it take you so long to write this?
It is quite traumatic to go through something like childhood cancer, and it took me time and space to be able to have the capacity. I knew I wanted to write a book about childhood cancer because when we were in the zone, we had the most incredible medical team from Stanford, Dr. Gary Dahl and Stacy Teicher, our nurse practitioner, who actually collaborated with me on the book, which you can imagine is very full circle. But your oncologist handles the medical side so beautifully, they don't have time, and it's really not their job to teach parents everything else that there is to do as a parent of a kid with cancer. And there's so much that we need to know, which is why I wrote the book. I knew I had this in me back then, and it just took some time and space to be ready.
But that's okay, exactly, because, I mean, in the meantime, you had children to raise.
I did.
You had a lot going on. So what kind of guidance did you get from the medical professionals that were there? I mean, like you mentioned, the oncologists, they're doing their job.
Yes.
They're trying to save your child.
100%, and they do such a beautiful job of that. And that's what parents aren't told in the beginning, is that the rest is up to you. You need to know how to do this. And that's the difficult part in this story, is that back then, there were no tools for that, and now there are no tools for that. When I began writing this book in 2020, I was still shocked to find that there's a lot of resources out there, but there was no comprehensive guide for giving you the beginning through hopeful survivorship.
Right, and we always hear that you've got to be your own medical advocate,
Yes.
and even more so when it comes to your children.
100%. Nobody knows your child like you do.
Exactly, and what they're going through, and you're trying to help them cope through it,
Yeah.
as well as just being a mom and the emotional side of it.
And you have other children perhaps, and maybe a partner in your life. There's a lot to navigate for a parent of a kid with cancer, and we become quite paralyzed when we get that diagnosis. And I want to be that guidebook, that BFF, to help parents understand that you have choices. You can be empowered to take on this journey and maybe even be lucky enough to thrive during it.
Yeah, exactly, which is great. It's kind of a helping hand from a best friend who's gone through it.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what I wanted.
Which was lovely for you to share that. So let's talk about the release date. It's coming up on February 16th, but this is an important day to you.
It is. So we waited until February to launch because it is World Cancer Awareness Month, but February 16th is Cecilia's 30th birthday.
Yay.
And my father's birthday as well, so it's pretty special.
All right, it's very meaningful. The Cancer Parents Handbook. Make sure you go out and get it. Thank you so much for sharing your story and really sharing your knowledge and helping out the community as large. And
Thank you so much.
I'm glad that Cecilia is great.
Me too.
That's wonderful. All right, thanks so much for joining.